Hey guys, it's Jordan with your weekly refuge video. We are going to finish our 5-week series, What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do, examining the life of Joseph this evening. So the main thing we're going to focus on is this idea of paying somebody back. When I was a kid, middle school era, I hung out with my older brother and my cousin, who was also older than me by about a year or two. And so they kind of hit life phases before I did. They had disposable income well before I did. So we hang out, we go to a fast food restaurant, and for me, the dollar menu was expensive. So sometimes I'd feel guilty, feel bad, I didn't have any money, I wanted to hang out with them. So we're hanging out, and we'd go eat, and I would simply say, I'm not hungry. Well, my cousin, he'd look at me, and he knew, and he would say, dude, get whatever you want, I got you covered. I appreciated it so much. It was such a kind gesture. And I'd often say to him, hey, I'll pay you back. And he'd look at me and say, don't worry about it. And what a cool guy, right? It's such a heartwarming thing to do. I still remember it 20 years later. Now, other times paying back gets complicated. Like, for instance, when somebody hurts you. Sometimes there's a feeling that wells up inside of us. We want to hurt them back. We want to get payback. Maybe somebody talked about you behind your back. Well, we want to get them back and talk about that. Maybe somebody flirted with your boyfriend or your girlfriend and you want to get them back. Maybe somebody failed to text you back or invite you to the group outing and you want to ghost them and get them back because of it. We all have moments where we've been hurt and we want payback. Now, maybe you don't go all scary movie and get like crazy revenge on somebody, or maybe you don't write a revenge song like some pop stars today. But we all know this feeling where, hey, I kind of want them to feel the pain I felt, to feel the hurt that I've been feeling, to be embarrassed the way I was embarrassed. To get even. They have to get something in return here. Even if it's just, I want them to know that shady Snapchat comment I put out. Yeah, that was about them. I want them to figure that out eventually. Here's the thing though, it's usually the people closest to you that you end up wanting the most payback for. Why? Well, you probably aren't trying to get payback on someone else's brother or sister. You probably weren't hurt by somebody else's best friend. You probably aren't really angry about what somebody else's ex-boyfriend or girlfriend did. The people that are closest to you who know you the best, well, they have the greater opportunity to hurt you because you're vulnerable with them. And so they're the most likely to end up on your list of people who need a little payback. Payback happens in a couple ways. Sometimes we do public payback. Well, they talk bad about me. Well, I'm going to talk bad about them. I'm going to say nasty things about them in front of our friend group, right? Sometimes maybe you'll throw in a just kidding, but you really want to burn them publicly. And so you let them have it. Well, maybe sometimes it's more passive. It's more subtle. Like I said, you'll put something on social media. You'll make a snide comment, and they're not sure if that was directed at them, but you'll roll your eyes when they're talking, or maybe you'll just ignore them, right? Really subtle ways of getting somebody back. Then, some of you guys are really good at this. You've told me this. There's the imaginary payback. You will, in your head only, have these long arguments and conversations, and you'll blast them. You'll destroy them, right? You'll have the best comeback. You'll let them have it publicly. You never actually do any of it or say any of it. It's all in your head. It consumes you, but that's your form of payback. Well, the last one is probably my favorite, and it's the one where you don't actually do anything, and I'm not saying this is right, but right or wrong, I like it when somebody hurts you and just life catches up with them. And you get to watch them fail. There's a part of me, that evil part of Jordan, that gets into this, right? Maybe your ex broke up with you for somebody else. And then later, that person dumps them. Yeah, get wrecked, right? You get to watch it happen. Maybe your mom really blew up on you. And then she does come, rightly so, and apologizes for the way she acted, but you kind of twist the knife, make her feel bad for the way she talked to you. Get wrecked, Mom, right? You dig it in. And then maybe there's that bully in third grade who called you a dweeb, and even though you looked like a dweeb, you were really upset about it. So when he busted his face on the pavement years later, tripping, get wrecked, right? You're okay with it. There's this weird line where it feels like justice. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. There's just this feeling of justice that wells up in us. Well, I start today because I want you to understand that feeling, that's what Joseph's wrestling with right now. As we finish his story, Joseph is going to navigate the ins and outs of what payback looks like. So in this series, we've been covering the life of Joseph through the book of Genesis, and it's been a wild ride. And many times along the way, Joseph rightly did not know what to do. Earlier in the series, we talked about how Joseph knew he was dad's favorite, and he kind of rubbed it in his brothers' faces. They weren't too happy about that. And then Joseph had his dreams where everybody in the family would be worshiping, bowing down to Joseph as the leader, as the king, the guy in charge. And he told his brothers about it because he wasn't the most self-aware guy. And they got so upset, they decided to kill him, which was an overreaction, but we can understand their frustration with him. And then they decided, no, let's sell him to these traders that came by, sell him into slavery, make some money, tell dad Joseph's dead. So we've covered that. We saw Joseph as a slave in Egypt. We saw Joseph thrown into prison for years in Egypt. And then we saw Joseph interpret Pharaoh's dream, the most powerful guy in the world at the time, get ushered into Pharaoh's court, works for Pharaoh, becomes second in command in Egypt under Pharaoh. And then, that's not bad, by the way, for a kid who got sold into slavery. You could say, as the Bible says, God was with Joseph, and Joseph followed God. And so no matter what situation he got in, it wasn't all good, and it was hard, but Joseph seemed to make the best of it and allow God to make good out of it. All right. Tonight, though, there's a plot twist. So Joseph's working under Pharaoh, and famine is hitting the land. This is why Pharaoh's entrusting Joseph, because Joseph saw this coming, interpreting the dream. Joseph is making sure Egypt's okay and actually helping people in other nations be okay while making Egypt a mad bank as they give food out to those in need, sell food. So Joseph's hometown, where dad, moms, and brothers are, they're out of food. So Jacob, Joseph's dad, sends Joseph's brothers to Egypt to go barter, trade, beg for food so they don't die in the famine. Now, Joseph's family thought Joseph was dead. They had no reason not to. That's what they told dad. The brothers figured, that guy's long gone. So when they come to Egypt and they're dealing with this official, they have no reason to guess or assume that the guy, this older guy wearing Egyptian clothing, a powerful Egyptian leader, could possibly be their little brother that they betrayed. They arrived, and Joseph knew exactly who they were. So Joseph starts to size them up, ask them questions, test them, trip them up. He wants to see his younger brother, Benjamin, his blood brother, Benjamin. And so this back and forth happens, and you can read about it all in Genesis 42 through 50. I encourage you to do it. It plays out like a movie. But they're going back and forth. Joseph knows who they are. They don't know who Joseph is. And then this happens. We're going to pick up the story in Genesis 45, 1 through 3. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." There was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. He looked at his brothers and said, "I'm Joseph. I'm your brother." And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians outside heard him. And Pharaoh's household heard all about it. Rumors started spreading that, hey, this is his family. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. They're thinking, we're seeing a ghost. And he's the second most powerful man in the world right now. And we betrayed him. Imagine the tension in this moment. Face to face, Joseph's looking at the people who tried to kill him, backstabbed him. They were his brothers. They should have loved him, took care of him, and they did him dirty. And now they're coming to Joseph asking for help. If there ever was a moment where Joseph could get payback, this was it. He could string them up by their toes if he wanted, right? He could have refused them food. He could have sold them into slavery. He could have had them thrown in prison, tasted their own medicine. He could have had them killed. Nobody would have batted an eye or questioned him. Could have done it all. I want to pause for a second. What would you have done? Honestly, you're in this moment. These are the people that ruined your life as far as you saw it. Completely changed everything, took everything away from you, and left you for dead. And now they come to you asking for help, and you have complete power and control over them. What would you do? Well, as the story goes on, Joseph looks at his brothers and says, every single one of you, come here. Stand close. And he's eye to eye with these guys. They're terrified right now of what he's going to say, what he's going to do. In 45, verse 4, he says, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now, he looks at him, he says, do not be distressed. Do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here. Because, how could he say it? He says, there's a light flashing. Sorry about that. Anyway, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now, there has been famine in the land. And for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing or reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by great deliverance. He says, don't be worried right now. I'm not going to hurt you. Don't be angry with yourselves. And understand that there's something good God has worked out of this. And because I'm here, I'm saving many lives, including your own. How in the world could Joseph have responded that way? How could he look at them? Well, he didn't try to get revenge because he had already done the hard work of forgiving those who hurt him. How do we know that? Because you can't look at somebody else in the eyes who hurt you that way, betrayed you that way, and say, don't be distressed, don't be angry with yourselves. God has a higher plan, a higher purpose in all things. He says, he doesn't say you didn't hurt me. No, you hurt me, and my pain was very real. But he doesn't try to create more hurt or more pain in his response. Only a healed person could do this. How? Proper perspective. Joseph had this relationship with God worked out along his entire life journey. When things went his way and when things did not go his way, he looked at God and says, I don't understand, but I trust you. And I'm going to walk with you and see where you take this. And so when someone else comes, Joseph has this relationship with God worked out. The relationship with others takes care of itself. He says, no. I want to make sure you have your relationship with God taken care of. And because of my relationship with God, because I know who I am, I know Jordan's a sinner, well, I can forgive you easy because I know what God's forgiven me for. And he wants me to forgive you the same way. This is the gospel, guys. This is the message of Jesus Christ, that God looked at us. And if anybody could say, oh, I need some payback for the way you all behaved, it's God looking at us. But he says instead, no, I'm going to send my son to die for you because I love you. And I'm going to make peace. And my son's going to reconcile you to me and fix this relationship rather than create more pain and more harm, even though you deserve it. This is the gospel. And then Jesus looks at us and says, because I loved you that way, love everybody else that way. Because I forgave you, forgive everybody else. Joseph is the first fruits of this in the Bible, this attitude of just grace and mercy. The kingdom of God is built on this kind of attitude. Joseph goes on to tell his brothers, go get your dad, go get your father, and everybody's going to move to Egypt so I can take care of you, you'll be safe, everybody will be fed, and nobody would suffer. And then this happens. I love this. Genesis 45, verse 15. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterwards, his brothers talked with them. There is one thing better than payback, and that's reconciliation. That's a relationship that was broken. And sure, there's justice, and it feels good sometimes to watch this person get what's coming to them. But how much sweeter, how much better if that relationship could be repaired, and even stronger now because of the love and the grace that it's built upon. Where we see God do the impossible in relationships, it's because of grace. It's because of his love. He brings peace where there's only been hurt. All because of forgiveness, the forgiveness of Christ. So, when it comes to others hurting you and you have an opportunity to choose payback or reconciliation, here's a simple way to remind yourself of what you should do. When you don't know what to do, pursue peace instead of payback, because that's what Jesus did for you. When you do this, when you pursue peace, you have to do two things. Number one, you fight for the relationship. You look at that person and say, I could fight to win, I could fight to get even, I could fight to make you feel bad, or I could fight to reconcile this relationship. Joseph fought to reconcile that relationship. And even though that revenge felt sweet for a moment, I bet it was sweeter to have his family back and to make up for all those years lost. Now, Joseph didn't have a superpower. He just did the hard work of walking with God and forgiving, understanding who he was, how much God loved him, and giving that love and grace to others. You can do this too. So, to pursue peace, one, you fight for the relationship. Number two, you let go of your right to get revenge. You let it go. You say, I don't deserve revenge. I don't deserve to hurt you, and I'm not going to try. You choose the path of forgiveness. You choose God's story, God's kingdom, God's way, which is better. Again, reconciliation is much more better than revenge. And why do I tell you this? Because I've been there, and I've done it both ways, and I've seen how much wanting revenge, being angry, wanting payback, it really just hurts me. And so I'm telling you, this will give you freedom. Freedom to enjoy the benefits of a reconciled relationship and the freedom of being free and letting go of all that anger and bitterness that really just hurts you. It's the best way. So fight for the relationship and let go of what you think is your right to revenge. Because ultimately, the way God's forgiven you, you have to forgive everybody else. Now, I don't want to say this isn't complicated. You all have stories, we all have stories, and it gets a little insane when you well, do I have to reconcile? It's a toxic relationship. What does that look like to forgive? Maybe you're the one who did the hurting. And so this is why you have small groups. We take this biblical truth and we apply it to your situation. So talk to your leaders, talk to somebody you trust. Use this principle to guide you through these situations. The principle is 100% correct and true. It's the way you should go. Pursue peace. Pursue reconciliation. All for the love of Christ, the way you've been forgiven, forgive. What that looks like in your situation, that's why we need community. That's why we need group. That's why we need each other. As you go to group and you talk about this, think about the power you have to pursue peace. I want you to ask yourself, what do I need to decide to do? Who do I need to forgive? But ultimately, you have control. They may have hurt you, but you have the control in the situation to change the way it's going. And God's with you. Again, he loves you. He's forgiven you. He will teach you how to forgive. He'll help you reconcile and change your story. The things that people meant for evil, God can change that story and use it for good. And it's a beautiful thing to do. So when you don't know what to do, don't go after payback. Pursue peace, not revenge. All right, guys, I hope this series has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. Joseph, 10 out of 10. If I was half the man that guy was, I tell you. But I'm trying. And with God's grace, hopefully we'll all be a little better by following Joseph's example, because Joseph is ultimately following God's example. I miss you. Hope to see you soon. Remember, we have church Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock. You can come now. And thank your group leaders for all they do for you. All right, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. So when I first tried to do this bit, I got copyright striked, and it took me 18 days to fix it. So it's up. And then we didn't meet last week. And so I'm putting a link right here. So click on that link. It'll take you to the full version of 2 weeks ago's video. And there's the bit I wanted you to see then. It'll be worth it. Enjoy.